Before we get into the video, I just want to say I was featured on a podcast a few days ago, which I'm really psyched about. It's an up and coming podcast called The Ground Up Podcast, and then their Instagram is Listen to Ground Up. So if you want to listen to me talk about sort of more of my philosophy around climbing and trad climbing, my experience with climbing, and a bunch of silly stories and everything, I'll put all the links in the description, and you could check out this podcast. I thought it was pretty interesting, and you might like it. All right, let's get into the video.
Welcome back with the Quiet Subculture. Today we're out at a route called Believe It or Not, and it's on the workout wall, and it's only seen one previous lead. So it was put up by Mike Siaka, who I believe also FA'd this summer, which is another classic top rope or lead in the Gunks. It's a line that's in between To Have or Have Not, which is a 12CR, and To Be or Not To Be, which is a 12AX. When I had originally completed the workout wall a few years ago, I didn't lead this line, which is technically on the workout wall. I never climbed it. I just kind of wrote it off, and I was like, that's a contrived squeeze job. Like, why would anybody ever climb that stupid thing? I can't even pick out where the moves are and where it goes. So I just sort of pretended it didn't exist. I really have a completionist approach to my climbing. I'm not a grade chaser at all. I like to complete areas, and that includes all of the hardest ones in the area, and that includes all of the easiest ones in the area. And that includes all of the 4-star routes and all of the 3, 2, 1, 0-star routes that nobody has ever climbed. You know, it turns people off a little how contrived looking it is, but the upper crux is actually really cool. To Be or Not To Be is known for this bear hug crux, and this is the bear hug crux that should have been on To Be or Not To Be. It's way better. It has a much more defined sequence, and it's much more technical. So I'm actually really psyched on it. So it's 12AX, and it's right next to Be or Not To Be, which is 12AX. But they're different X. So To Be or Not To Be is like 5'11" through the X-rated stuff. This is the crux move, is at the most run out point with the sloping foot, a sloping right hand crimp, and reaching up to this somewhat loose flake. So even though it's the same grade, it feels a lot scarier and much more committing. I got on this, I don't know, I guess a few months ago, and on my first day on it, I think I was able to do 4 or 5 clean mock leads, or top ropes, or I can't even remember, and I kept talking myself out of the lead, because it's really scary. We came back to it last week. It was really high humidity, and it felt really hard, and there was no way I was doing it. And I've been thinking about it more since then, about how I can make it safe if I could go back over it with gear, find tension hooks or nuts or ways I could climb it safer to make it feel more reasonable. So I actually decided that using 2 ropes and then placing a bunch of different gear, I found a nut that like the top third of it sits in the seam, but the rock actually seems really solid, so I think that might be okay. I found a tension hook. I found a non-tensioned hook mid-crux when you're making the single hardest move. I have all the gear. I got everything figured out, and I did a clean mock lead today as a warm-up, and I fell at the tippy top, which is like dirty 5'9". I just didn't pick out the holds right, so I lost my balance. I cleaned it up there, and I found what I need to do now. I just wanted to talk about style and my personal style when it comes to climbing. So obviously I'm a head pointer. I like head pointing stuff, and I like placing all the gear with my body, within reach of my body. I don't like pre-placing any gear. If I'm sport climbing, I don't care, but on trad head points, I like placing everything myself. I don't like using any assistance for that. That's why I tension the hooks myself. I don't like the belayer tensioning hooks. It's just my own weird ethic. And you would think like, oh, why are you doing something that is the destruction of trad ethic, top roping something to death and then leading it after you've absolutely wired it? Why do you care about the ethics? And I don't really have a good answer for that. I just do, you know? So the way this was previously led was using an extended coat hanger to place a nut in the upper crux. I don't like that for myself. Everybody could climb however they want, and whatever. You're technically placing, all the gear on lead by yourself. You're just using another way of doing it. That's totally cool. I don't like that because there's a no hands rest on a ledge on this route, and like if that's the ethic you're using, what is to stop you from carrying up an actual stick clip like on your back and placing the crux not 30 feet up from where you are. But what's the difference in theory between a stick clip and a coat hanger that's been extended this far? Yeah, so for my climbing, I don't like that. I like to place it all on lead. And that's why I've taken great pains to find these tension hooks, to find this nut, to use the double rope technique. It's more hassle, but it's always worth it, right? Because if this was like a sport route, if it was like a bolted sport route, I would have done it and completely forgotten about it. And I would have completely forgot about the moves and how I actually climbed it. But this is cool. Like this is the process. It's taking a route within your limit that's really dangerous and making it as safe as possible. And that's really, to me, is really interesting climbing. And it gives you a lot to contend with, because I've thought about this route a lot in the last 3 or 4 months, and I've come up with ultimately the solution for me and the ethic that I like to climb that excludes extended coat hangers and excludes and pre-rigging any gear, and I think makes it actually relatively safe for an X-rated route, because now I need to actually do the upper crux move and then place the nut from the flake. You can't place that nut in sequence unless you were way stronger. You're on kind of 2 slopey holds there. So everybody climb, how you want, but that's what I like to do, and it's engaging and it's cool and it's rewarding, and that's why I do it like that. So I mock let it clean. I feel okay for it, but I'm going to do another mock lead. Conditions are absolutely perfect right now. And then I'm gonna make a decision after the second attempt if I can do it or not. So thanks for listening.
So in this fall, I just slipped a foot as I'm placing number 2.
I can't believe I just did that.
And actually fall on this hook. When you see this this hook placement, I can't believe it actually held. It was really confidence inspiring. I didn't film an exit interview on this because I was just this is like a very X-rated scary route, and I just had such an adrenaline dump afterwards that I just didn't even think about it. So I'm going to be doing some voiceover during the climbing. This nut doesn't look bad, but the flake it's behind is incredibly hollow and is likely to just break off if you fell on it. It's kind of just like a mental piece. The yellow dragonfly between my legs is actually a good piece, but when you do this little crux getting to the ledge, you're very run out, and I think it'd be very close if you blew these exit moves getting to the ledge, because I think the nut would go. Yeah, this hold is actually pretty bad. So you see here I still have the number 3 in place. When I blew the first lead attempt, I lowered off that number 3 and carried up another one because I'm such a stickler for the ethics. So here's me placing the other one, and then I take that 3 out and put it off to the side. Just so I could say I placed all the gear on lead. So all this gear I place here, I'm kind of not sure about any of it. Like, this thing is really shallow. The nut that I place is half seated. The hook is half seated, and you basically run it out a good 25 feet from the only really good piece is the number 3 at my feet and this number 2 that I'm about to place. And the reason for the double ropes here is so I didn't have to extend everything to a central sort of master point. And by extending everything, that would increase the distance that I'm falling. Because I think if you fell at the top of this crux, you would basically fall 60 feet either into the ground or very, very close to it. So the double ropes lets you fall in between the pieces with less extension. And the other thing I'll say about this while I'm placing all the gear is I tried so hard on this that I actually had blood blisters. Oh man, look at that hook. This is a hook that held my fall on a screamer. So I tried so hard on this when I was towing my feet into these holds and squeezing that I actually had blood blisters all over my feet. So I'm going to attach pictures of my feet at the end of this, just because probably nobody really wants to see my feet. But I've never had that happen in 15 years of climbing. Blood blisters all over my feet. I thought I had like flesh-eating virus or something, and it was just from towing so hard and actually trying so hard on these moves out of sheer fright. Not this stuff, but more the upper crux where I placed the loose, untensioned hook. The sequence is so cool. This has a Scream aid on it. I asked Dave McLeod in the comments of one of his Instagram posts once how he decides to put a screamer on things. And he basically just said, if I would not want to fall on it, I put a screamer on it. and that, I don't know if there's any truth to that, but that's the tactic I've adopted. This toe is so bad. And here I'm trying so hard. I'm just like scared to death of falling. And then unfortunately I climb out of the I couldn't get a shot of the upper stuff, but I'm on a giant flake now. You do like a quick, maybe hard 5'10" little roof stand up, and then you do some dirty slabbing to the top. Now I feel safe. So that's it. That's, believe it or not, underrated, kind of sort of untraveled line. Here's my feet. You see these? I had some on my fingers, but I don't have the pictures of them. Yeah, it was crazy. I've never had anything like that. And what was cool about that is that even though I was trying so hard, I didn't feel maxed out. I wasn't death pump doing this or anything. I was just scared because it was a really scary route.